There we go. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. How's everyone today?
Good afternoon. Good. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. Nice to see you all. Welcome to our On the Move ground operations.
Thank you.
I just say hello.
So,
Yeah.
I just ask you all to mute your microphones while we get started here. Okay, we're so excited to have you here today and to soon meet our panelists. But this is our On the Move ground operations. So this is associated with FSO 125. Yeah, we're excited to get started. Thank you for joining us again. We have students from all of our FSO 125 sections that are joining us today for this one big session. For those that don't know me, my name is Jennifer Patrick. I'm one of the FSO 125 profs and the program coordinator for FSO and FLS. And I'm also the one that has been emailing you about the field trip that we're so excited to be partaking in soon. Yeah, I used to be a WestJet ground agent and flight attendant. I just left WestJet last June, but I loved working on the ground and I love to share my experience about working on the ground. And we love to have our students come back. I'm joined here today. First, I'll introduce your prof. So some of you may know Sarah. There she is. Sorry, there's a lot of little boxes in front of me. So Sarah's joining us. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, hello. I'm happy to see all of you guys.
She's new to the ground operations team, so she's learning just like you. I don't think you've been to one of these sessions before, right?
Not to one of these, but I have worked on the ground in a few different capacities, not as a PSA, but I was one of the wheelchair assistants at the airport once upon a time, and I've also worked for CATSA on the ground.
Right.
So I've seen life on the ground, but this, yes, is a little bit of a different capacity for me.
Mhm.
But it's fun to finally partake in one of these events. I always hear about them after the fact.
Awesome. Hopefully good things.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, our two profs here, and Marcia will be showing up. Professor Marcia will be joining us as soon as she's done her
Can you
afternoon
tell her
class.
we're here?
Woo! Yeah. No, there's evidence. There will be a recorded version sent to her. Don't worry. But I'll let her know personally that you're here. Um, so yeah, she'll be logging in soon. Some of the other profs are either flying or are in class, so that's understandable. And we have our field placement assistant with us. It's Camille Bailcar. Hi, Camille. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm the field placement assistant and I'll be taking over the field placement in the summer. So I'm very excited to be here. I think this is the first time that I've been invited. I'm excited to hear about our alumni's experience.
Yeah, and I asked Camille to come here today because if you're in the 2-year program, you will be doing a placement. Well, it's optional, but hopefully you'll be doing a placement in your 4th semester. So it's a good way to see how our graduates, our alumni did their placement and maybe, were hired after or what they did for their placement. So it's good to start thinking about the placement early on in the program. Yeah, we have, as you saw in the email, we have about 210 students that have started this semester. If you didn't join orientation, there is a recording posted, but I'm so glad to meet you again at this session for those that I haven't met yet. And we're very excited to share the journeys of our graduates from the program as they embark on jobs on the ground. So just because you're in this program doesn't mean you're going to be a flight attendant or work in in the air. Sometimes the students want to work on the ground. So that's why we created this course. Also, the best flight attendants do have the background on the ground. They have the theory and they know about the entire operation that airlines have. So yeah, very passionate about the ground services aspect of the flight attendant position. And just a reminder to students, there is a reflection due after this, so a reflection on what you learned today. So make sure you're taking notes, but you will also be provided with a recording of this. The session will be about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. We'll spend about an hour and a half talking to our panelists. If you have any burning questions during the session, feel free to ask on the chat. Sarah and Camille will be moderating the chat and they can ask questions on your behalf if you'd like to type them in. Or you can do the reaction button of raising your hand. Do you guys know how to use the reaction buttons on Zoom? So it just says react. You can pick whatever one you want. I'll pick a balloon. So why don't you go ahead and find your balloon reaction and see what happens, and or whatever emoji you want or whatever reaction you want. So try that out. So if you do have a question, you can always just raise your hand or do some sort of reaction. Or just turn off your mic if you feel the need. That's totally fine too, and just ask away. Okay, so now for our VIPs of our event. So I'd like to introduce our panel. So with us today, we have Chloe. Chloe is from Cathay Pacific. Hi, Chloe.
Hello, hi everyone.
We'll get you to do the full intro in a sec. We also have Darina. Hi, Darina. She's with Sunwing Airlines in management.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. And we have Kirthi with us. Kirthi is a customer service rep with Porter Airlines. Hi, Kirthi. And do we have our Ashley he is with GTA Donata and which is Emirates and Air Transat on the ground. He told me he won't be able to log on till about 1:30. So we'll catch him up when he gets logged in. And Roshni, is Roshni here? Okay, Roshni must be running a bit late, so that's fine. We'll get started. So, Kirthi, you're first on my screen, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask you the first question. So, can you briefly give us an overview of your role and why did you choose your role?
So I'm a customer service agent or rep with Porter Airlines.
Oh, sorry, we just there you go. Yeah,
I'm good.
sorry, it got muted for a sec.
No
Can you
problem.
start over?
So customer service agent with Porter Airlines. What our role really does is we start the passengers, I guess, process in their traveling. We check them in, and then we also do gate work. So we'll do the boarding process and just verifying their documents that they have the right ones to travel, making sure they have what they can travel with in terms of carry-ons, and verifying that they have the right stuff in their carry-ons, their check bags. We help like tag their bags, drop their bags for them. So that's basically my role at Porter Airlines.
Amazing. And you graduated in 2017, right?
19.
2019. Okay. And you started working when at Porter?
So I got hired in 2022, and
Okay.
then I was on leave. I was on mat leave, and I just got back.
Oh, and we got you to dive right into this. But congratulations on your babies.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Kirthi. Chloe, do you want to give us an overview of what you're doing now when you graduated?
Sure. So my name is Chloe and I graduated last June, I believe so. And yeah, I'm working with Cathay Pacific now. I got hired like last month, February. So I don't know what I'm doing right now. So I'm just still learning. I do check-in and boarding, like and check their bags, verify their documents. Yeah, pretty much same thing.
Sorry, amazing. And you worked at an airline in between. You left to another airline, right?
No, I'm still in there. I'm
Oh,
doing
okay.
so I'm doing Swissport, which is a third company, and I do Korean Air in the morning, and I do Cathay at night right now.
Oh my gosh. I actually thought you left Swissport to go to Cathay. So you're working at two airlines pretty much.
Yes.
Oh, she's busy. Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. And Dorina, do you want to give us an overview of what you've been up to since you graduated?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Dorina. I graduated from Seneca Flight Services in May 2023. In my last semester, I actually got an offer from GTA Donata, and I was assigned to work as a check-in agent for Turkish Airlines and later on with Air Transat as well. Before I come to Canada, I was actually a flight attendant in Malaysia. And GTA Donata was my very first position after I graduated from Seneca College. And after a year and a half, I got an offer from Sunwing Airlines as an airport manager. So I currently work with Sunwing Airlines as an airport services manager. Basically, what we do is that we're there for the whole operation from the moment that check-in counter is open to the time that the flight is gone, and we go back to the office, do all the paperwork and flight documents. So we're basically there 24/7. There will be a manager at the airport, and we handle pretty much everything. We're just overlooking the whole operation. We work, our ground handling company is Swissport, and us as Sunwing representatives, we're just there to manage the whole operation and be there if there's any problems. And yep, that's it.
I love it. Okay, so great. We've heard from all three of our panelists so far, so let's dive into some questions. First, I would like to know how were you hired? Did you do a placement? Were you hired from your placement? Talk about the way you were hired. Did you just apply online? Did you apply at our career fair? So let's talk about that, and we'll start with Kirthi.
So I was hired, I actually applied online. I was hired because Porter started operations at Pearson in 2023. And we were basically first team to work there. And so I was hired online, and then we did an interview online, and then a group interview also online. And then basically you get your offer letter. And once you accept, they'll call you in for a uniform fitting and then training. Training was about 1 month. And so I did training in January. And then February 1st was our first official day at Pearson. And yeah, that was a process.
Oh my gosh, yes. So typically with airlines, it's not just one interview go, it's a whole bunch of things. So Kirby was hired to help with the startup with Porter Airlines out of Toronto. They traditionally just flew out of YTZ, the Toronto Island Airport. So they did some mass hiring. Lots of our students were hired, which was awesome to see. And you got to experience what it's like to do like work at a startup airline pretty much at a new base, which is never an easy thing, but a great experience for you.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. Did you do a placement? It's
I
coming.
did. So when I was still at Seneca, I did placement with WestJet.
Yes. Okay.
It was for I think a month and a half, as a PSA, passenger service agent. But we were mostly at the kiosk, helping passengers check in at the kiosk and help them tie their bags. That's what I was doing at placement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used to have WestJet. We unfortunately don't have WestJet anymore as a placement.
Heard.
Sometimes when the airlines become unionized, the unions will say no to having students do their internship. So unfortunately, that's what happened to WestJet. We're hoping to have WestJet back soon. However, Porter Airline does accept students at placement, so it's kind of like a full circle thing. Have you
Yeah.
met any of our students at?
I think I met, yeah, I think I'm not, I didn't take his name, but I think there are 3 of them doing placement with Porter right now. Yeah, and they're mostly at the kiosks with us as well, helping check-in passengers at the kiosk, tagging their bags, helping them with their bag tagging, stuff like that.
Amazing. Okay, great. Thank you. We'll go back to training soon. Chloe, would you like to talk about how you were hired and if you did a placement, did that have impact on it, on your hiring?
Yeah, so the story is a little long. So basically, I did my placement with Cathay Pacific, and I applied through online. It was like the last week of my placement. So I applied and I got the rejection letter in my final interview. So after that, after my placement, I applied for Swissport and I was like just working with Swissport only. And after a year after my placement, I saw the Cathay Pacific was hiring again, and I still liked Cathay with my placement. So yeah, so basically the one of the Cathay Pacific manager, like the station manager, I was keep on touch with him, and I kept saying that I want to go back to Cathay to him, and he let me know that Cathay was hiring, so I applied, and yeah, that's it.
I love it. So you obviously had an amazing experience at Cathay. You went to work at another airline. You came back to you came back to Cathay. So what about Cathay like made you go back to Cathay?
Mm, like all of my friends are in Cathay too, and obviously it's not the reason that I want to go back to Cathay and work, but and I kept listening about like good thing about Cathay from my friends, and
Mhm.
and the biggest thing is I already experienced that Cathay's good side. So like I love the teams. I love how like they work. So
Mhm.
that made me go back to Cathay, I think.
That's totally fair. And once you enjoy working for a company, you know what you like. You know where you want to work. So I'm so glad you ended up going back. And unfortunately, sometimes with the placements, the airlines aren't always hiring, or you might get a rejection. I,
Mm-hmm.
I've been rejected a lot in my life for different airlines. This is very typical. It's not that easy. So, yeah. So for you to persevere, keep trying, and eventually go back is amazing. Dorina, do you want to talk about what you did for your placement and then yeah, talk about that?
Sure. My story was a little different. I actually got accepted into, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was both WestJet and Cathay back then for my placement. However, I was always applying for jobs at the airport for so long, although I was still studying. And I actually got a job offer from Donata at the same time that I got my placement with WestJet and Cathay. So I decided to go for the job. And I started with Donata in my fourth semester. I applied online. What I think is the most effective way of applying for jobs in aviation industry is actually a LinkedIn. There's a lot of jobs posted there, and I actively see it every day. And I think if you have a good LinkedIn profile, for some reason for aviation industry, it matters a lot. I've seen a lot of interaction that I had with even other airline employees. So I think it's always the best way to apply for it. So I also got my Sunwing job through LinkedIn. not just the NADA, but also Sunwing. My Sunwing process was a little different for the position. I had a 2 hours interview with the general manager of the airline, as well as I think our HR. And after that, I actually had like 2 or 3 steps interviews, and the longest one was the 2 hour conversation. And then I started my training, and I've been with them ever since, and it's been a fun journey.
I love it. And yeah, so you had these opportunities at different placements. You decided to go with a different one, not like a partner with Seneca, and you decided to pick your own paid placement and kind of went from there, which I love. After hearing from the three of you, I just want to emphasize to the students that it is so important to keep up with your network, whether it's your LinkedIn network or it's your friends at different airlines or an old boss. Keeping up, keeping in touch, keeping in contact, never burning bridges. Leaving on a sour note. You're keeping in touch and keeping up with that network. I love the advice about LinkedIn too. I know a lot of employers use LinkedIn. I used to work for an airline, and sometimes if we weren't sure about a candidate, guess what we would do? We would check the social media. We'd plug in their name, see what came up. So sometimes that would be the make or break of if you're going to hire them. So yeah, using LinkedIn is really important. And I know you guys are in the first semester, but next semester in your FSO 325 class, that's when you'll start, if you don't already have one, that's when you'll start learning more about LinkedIn and creating a profile. Okay, great. Can you talk about training? So what was your training like? I know you kind of, Kirthi already mentioned, like it was a month long. What did you learn about in your training? Was it paid training? And was it a repetition of what you learned at Seneca? So Kirthi, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
So my training was a month long. It was kind of divided. So we had online training and we also had in-person training. For the online training, it was just like a bunch of modules that we had to go through ourselves and learn the material. And then we would get quizzed on it at the end of the week. And you did have to get not really a passing grade, but you just had to know what the material was, have a pass. Like you would have another try if you failed the first time. But I guess it's not as serious as like flight attendant training where you had to get like the 85 or higher to pass. This was just if you didn't pass the first time, do the course again and then make sure you pass and understand. So that was half of our training. And the other half was in person. Since we are facing passengers and checking them in, we weren't able to do it at Billy Bishop just because it's two different companies. What we did was practice checking in people. We were at Pearson. I guess some of our supervisors made like bookings that were not real bookings, but just practice, something we can practice on. Like they'll come in and have us open the booking, check the passenger in, check their documents, stuff like that. So that was our in-person training. Most of our training material was just systems, so like the system that we use to check in passengers. I think at Seneca we had a course called Amadeus where we did our system training. But it's different for Porter. We use something called Go Now, which is a little bit easier than Amadeus. So if you do like choose maybe Porter, you'll see that Go Now is very different from Amadeus. So that was our system training. And then we also had to train on dangerous goods, stuff that can be permitted, cannot be permitted. What else? Yeah, just a procedure of like what check-in is. And for flights, we had to do stuff like weight and balance, because that's a very big part of how we can get our plane to go fueling, like how fueling plays a part in our weight and balance of the plane, stuff like that for our gate procedures. So that was training for us.
Okay. Wow. Lots to know there. Yeah, and it's important that um, you remind us that there is also online training involved. It's not all in person. Airlines like to save money. They don't make a lot of money, so they save where they can. So they do, whether it's initial training for flight attendants, whether it's ground training for CSRs, a lot of it is online. So embracing the online learning is a must. So thank you for sharing all that. Okay, Chloe, do you want to talk about your training?
Hey, so my training was half online, half in person as well. And it was paid training, and even our online training, even if we do online training, there's like an average time of the module, and the company pays for it. And for online module, it's like pretty much same thing. It's just a dangerous goods like special assistance or the weight and balance like that. And for the in-person, it's just same thing as like we check in the passenger and we're just shadowing our seniors. But then at the same time, I already know because Korean Air and Cathay Pacific, they use the same program called CM. It's Amadeus, but it's different than we learned in Seneca. So we use the same thing. So in Korean Air, I already know how to use the system. So I shadowed like 1-2 days and I started doing check-in by my own. And my senior was just like standing beside me, just looking. Yeah, that that's it for the training.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so Kirthi and Chloe were talking about the systems they learned and in second semester, which Kirthi mentioned, the Amadeus class you guys have to take, which is episode 215. Different type of Amadeus than Cathay uses. It's more of like booking a ticket like from start to finish, whereas Chloe's talking about like check-in and weight and balance, all that is in with the type of Amadeus that Cathay uses. Great. And Kirthi, was your training paid?
Yeah, my training was paid. Sorry, I forgot to mention.
All good. I think that's pretty much the standard now. Back 20 years ago when I did it, not so much, but now it's pretty standard that training's paid. Okay, Dorina, do you want to maybe start? I know you have lots of experience under your belt, but do you want to talk about like when you first started at GTA Donata, what the training was like compared to when you're in management, what the training's like?
So when I started with GTA Donata, first of all, both trainings for Sunwing and Donata were paid. My training was obviously a lot different in Donata than it was for Sunwing because it was two completely different positions. So with Donata, we started with online modules that was specifically related to this airline check-in system because every airline has a different check-in system, and this one was specifically for Turkish Airlines, which I first started with Turkish. And after that, for dangerous goods classes, we had in-person classes at the main office of GTA Donata. And the training was about, I think, 2 weeks. And the online modules was just for 2 days. We completed it in 1 day. We watched all the modules, did all the tests. And once we're done with dangerous goods in-person classes, we will go for on-the-job training. So we will start checking in. First is the shadowing, 1 week of shadowing all other check-in agents and the supervisor. And then we will have someone sitting with us, making sure that we're doing everything correctly. And then we'll start checking in. As for Sunwing, I had lots of online modules, and this was all different from Donata's modules. This was not just about the check-in system. Check-in system of Sunwing Airlines was only a part of it, The rest was about all different standards, procedures of Sunwing Airlines. A lot of management skills, a lot of leadership skills it has to be there when you would like to join the airline as for this position. And it was very long. It was just 2 weeks of online modules, and it was never ending, very, very long, but it's all paid for. And then on the job training was that the first day we had the general manager walking us through the whole process of the whole operation from the moment that the check-in counters open to the very end when the flight leaves and then when it arrives back to Toronto. What are the processes? What do we do? What are we looking for? How do we make sure the safety and comfort of all our passengers? So they walked us through each and every one of the steps. And the hands-on training, the on-the-job training was actually it played a very big part of us learning the job actually. But I think as soon as you actually start doing it on your own, that's when you remember all the things that you've learned in Seneca. Because I remember the course that we had in Seneca about the airport management, the ground handling. And I was a flight attendant before, I've never worked on the ground. So I pretty much first learned everything about airport manager, airport operation from Seneca College, which every time I was in the training for both GTA Donata and Seneca, it all reminded me of all the courses that I've learned from Seneca, which was very useful. And it literally, the training of the airlines, for me, it was just the repetitive courses that I've learned from Seneca, which made it a lot easier.
Oh, love that. Great to hear. We're still in line with what is being taught in the industry, which is what we strive to do. We want you to be hired and we want you to pass training and know your stuff, right? Okay, amazing. Thank you, Darina. And I noticed that Roshni's here. Hi, Roshni. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, I'm so sorry. I thought it was 2 p.m.
Oh, it's okay. We'll catch you up. So yeah, do you want to just introduce yourself? So far we talked about everyone has introduced themselves, talked about where you're working and what was training like. Do you want to just give us a little overview and then where you did your placement too, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Roshni, and I am currently working as a flight dispatcher at Sunwing Airlines. I did my training with Cathay Pacific, so it was very, very different from what I'm currently doing. My job is mainly in the operations control, so a lot different from what we had studied in school. However, there's a little bit of basic knowledge that comes in handy when it comes to working in the operations control center. So I had initially started after finishing my internship, my co-op placement with Cathay Pacific. I'd started with Sunwing Airlines as a crew travel coordinator. So basically, that was just us working along with the crew scheduling team and helping to book any flights, hotels, or transportation for the operating crew. So that was so different as well from what I'm currently doing. And because operations control all of the departments are in one room, it was nice to be able to, see how the whole team works together. So before our shifts start, we have 12-hour shifts. So before we start, we have a briefing and the duty manager would usually just, go around asking the updates on what has been happening in the previous shift that we took over from, and so that way I was able to see how many more other departments are involved in operations control. So yeah, for training, as for flight dispatch, it was very similar to just having a ground school. Basically, for 1 week, we had ground school training. Before to that, to be had as a flight dispatch, we have to have set the examinations for metrology and flight operations. And also do the radio license. Once they hire you, you have ground school training. So basically, it's just a refresher of everything that you've studied and been through in your exams. And then they tell you how Sunwing policies come kind of merge with the basic knowledge that you already have from the exams. and then they start teaching you with the systems that we have. And we just kind of do like test flight plans. And after that, we have to do about 2 months of shadowing. So we can plan flights, but we can't release the flights. And in that time, we have to be with different teams. So you can see how everyone kind of has their own ways of and tips and tricks of working that would come to handle with you.
Amazing. Okay. I just want to kind of put emphasis on all the different types of jobs that are available. Like Roshni mentioned quite a few there.
Yeah.
So airlines do have all these different jobs that are, the doors are opening. Can you remind me, Roshni, how you applied for Sunwing to work in the um, I forget
Crew,
the section.
crew travel.
Crew travel, right.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how did you get to that job?
Okay. So that one was actually when we were doing our co-op placement, and one of my classmates was working with Sunwing Airlines, and Miss Jen had gone to meet the supervisor and just check up on how my classmate was doing. And she mentioned that there was an opening there, so I'd applied via the website, and I'd gotten in touch on LinkedIn with the hiring manager, and they went through my resume and they sent me a response back.
Yeah, that was like a small world moment, but not a small world moment. So
Yeah.
basically, when you do your placement, students can choose any placement they want that's with an airline, or travel and tourism related. So when you get close to the fourth semester. So another student had chosen to work at Sunwing in crew planning. So when I went to meet the Sunwing manager with the student as the placement supervisor, I was just like, I have another student that's interested in the position. I'm pretty sure she applied. And he goes, well, I'll take a look at her resume after the meeting and we'll see. And wouldn't you know, he called her up like 2 days later and interviewed her, and well, she obviously loved her because she's Roshni, and he hired her pretty much right away. So, once again, focus on those connections you might have, and ask your professor, because a lot of the students that are here, the alumni that are here, would reach out to the profs early on in the program and say, I'm really interested in like being on the ground now. I love ground operations. I want to stay on the ground. Or I'm really interested in like the safety aspect or emergency response. Or Dorina, I remember reaching out, always wanting to work in management. Like I have the experience now. I kind of want to push it forward to work in management. So make sure if you see something you want to pursue, just kind of communicate with your profs, with me, and we'll try to make that dream happen for you. Okay, so thank you for catching us up, Roshni. I thought I could ask you a job related question, because you're all on the ground now. So, what made you choose working on the ground compared to be working as a flight attendant? So, and also, if it's not too much to ask, can I ask if you are a domestic or were you an international student? So we'll talk about that, in case there was if that was maybe the reason why. So, Kirthi, we'll start with you.
So I actually worked as a flight attendant with Flair prior to joining Porter. But I was sorry, I was based in Ottawa, and I was there for like 2 months, but I was on reserve for most of the time. So once
Yeah.
I Flair, I decided to probably try out ground just to see how it is. And I think that's the first thing that I saw. Like I also applied through LinkedIn. I saw this job opportunity on LinkedIn, applied, and I got called right away. Not called, but like I got the interview right away. So then I was here and then I got pregnant. So that's why I decided to stay on ground even now when after coming back from mat leave. just because it's what I can do right now. I do plan to go in flight later, but probably after some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally fair. I didn't know you worked at Flair for a short
Yeah.
time. Isn't that interesting? And then you went to the ground.
Yeah.
And then you had some babies, and now you want to stay close to home, which is totally understandable. Sometimes I flew while having a baby. It was not that easy. I luckily I worked for an airline that I could be home every night, but my sister just left for 4 days and had to scramble home because on the second day, one child is sick and she couldn't be away anymore. So yeah, there's lots of like different situations I have to consider. But I feel like Kirthi did fall in love with the ground a bit in their journey. Okay, Chloe, what would you like to, how would you like to respond to, are you still going to pursue flight attendant positions? What made you choose the ground?
So I am currently international student, not student anymore, but I'm under postgraduate work permit, and it was kind of hard to get the postgraduate work permit. That was part of the reason why I got rejection letter at first in Cathay Pacific. And so why I chose the ground is basically a big part of big part is the placement. I experienced my placement with Seneca with Cathay, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And for now, I am still willing to go for the flight attendant, but I still want to get my experience for now. So,
I love it. Totally fair. What were the challenges you faced with getting your postgraduate visa?
so it usually takes 3 months, but I don't know why. I think I got it like in 6 months. So I was so scared.
And then when you finally got it, you were able to reapply.
Yeah, I got it like last month, February, January or December, and I applied to Cathay Pacific. The timing was really good. I got it, and like a week later, they were hiring. So,
Oh, great timing. Okay, amazing. Darina, do you want to share if you're international, domestic, and why? I know you were in the air before, so can you talk about the transition and why you chose it?
So, as I mentioned, I was a flight attendant before, and I always told everyone and myself that I will never work on the ground. I only like flying. I love flying, and I will never be working at the airport. And so I never even thought of doing this. So I came to Canada because of COVID, and I was laid off from the airline that I was flying with, which was called AirAsia. I was based in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And I came here as a student. I came to Canada to start studying at Seneca College, and I was an international student. Um, After I graduated, shortly after, I got my post-graduation work permit, which for me was actually very easy. I think it only took a month. When it comes to immigration process, I would say don't be scared of anything because sometimes it's really different. Sometimes it takes forever. Sometimes it's it's very fast. It really depends on the situation that's going on in immigration. But anyways, it's not a scary process or anything. I got my post-graduation work permit for 3 years, and I am still currently on post-graduation work permit. However, I'm on my way to getting my PR. I already applied for it because I met the requirements. And I did get the position as a flight attendant with Porter Airlines at the same time that I got the position with Sunwing Airlines. I was required to have a US visa for my flight attendant position. That was minimum 2 years. But I kept applying for the visa, and every time they gave it to me, they gave me like I think about 3 times, but every time it was less than 2 years, and they said that's the requirement. We don't provide 2 years visa. And in the process, I got the position with Sunwing and I kind of liked it. I went through the job description. I really liked it though. And I started the position. And well, when I was with Donata, I had no choice because I was still a student. I didn't even have the time to be a flight attendant again, so I didn't even think about it. I just wanted to work part-time when I'm working and when I'm studying at Seneca, so I chose Donata. But with Sunwing, with the US visa problems and also the fact that I like the position, I started with Sunwing, and now even Sunwing Airlines flight attendants ask me about the fact that you were a flight attendant before, you don't want to come back to it. I kind of say no. I love the ground operation. Not that I don't like flying. I'm still I think it's adorable and I still love the vibe. But I think I like the ground operation where you can actually you can grow, and there's just a lot of things you can do, not just the job that I'm doing right now. There's a lot of different departments, a lot of different positions that you can explore, and you will learn about each and every one of them. So I kind of like the ground operation, and I was like, I've done the flying part. I think I'm gonna grow in ground operation, and I loved it. And I can't say I love this more than that. I love them both, but I think there's always an opportunity that you can grow, whether you're in the air or on the ground.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And you have, like we all do, you know, some winding roads to take you where you are today. And I love what you say about on the ground. There's so much room for growth on the ground. There's so many different jobs that you can do, much more than the in-flight world. Yeah, good. Roshni, so international student, domestic. Are you still going to pursue being in the air? Let's hear what your thoughts are.
Okay, so I was an international student. I had joined Seneca for the flight services course. And while I was doing the course, I realized that aviation is so big. It's just not pilots and cabin crew. There's just so many departments that are related to it. And while I was studying itself, I was kind of just, exploring like, oh, what opportunities could be there. And I was really interested in seeing how which department is responsible for emergency situations, because I kind of really like just thinking on my toes. So I wanted to explore that. But when I started with my co-op and I got the job at Sunwing, and I saw that, yeah, sure, like the emergency response like this there, but operational control is also kind of like a very, last moment. All the departments there have to act based on last moment changes. So it doesn't have to be an emergency situation, but it could just be, for example, the flight is delayed, or it's taking too long for this, or crew hasn't been picked up. So it was just really nice to see how everyone just comes together and makes sure that they're doing their part to make sure that this flight is leaving on time. So that was a very interesting realization I had when I was working in crew travel. And when I went into flight dispatch, that's where also one of what I really wanted to do kind of just merged in. For example, if we're having an mid-flight emergency and we have a diversion, so how would we handle that? And it was a lot different from crew travel, because crew travel was just basically, our job was just to make sure that the flight attendants and the pilots get there on time. But with dispatch, it goes on further. So we have to track the flight from the moment it takes off to the moment it lands, and whichever next flight that is coming in. So it was nice to see. So our kind of like area also, I work together with the passenger movement, and we have like the operational control specialist, and we have the engineering department. So we are able to see, okay, if there's this happening in engineering department, I have to check whether or not it affects with the airworthiness of the flight. Can this flight go or not? If something is in MEL, which is the minimum equipment list, we have to check whether or not, we're legal to fly or not. And if you're having a diversion, then I would see how passenger movement works. And for example, if unfortunately the flight has to divert and stay on that airport like overnight there, then it was nice to see how passenger movement, how they're working to getting the passengers, safety out over there and giving them like rooms and getting them, to have a good rest and come back for the next flight. And we also have another department called the APIS. So they're constantly checking whether or not like passengers have like legal documents. So everyone is working together in this type of situation, and there's always interesting thing happening, and it's like a day. Every day is a different day, and you always learn different things.
I love it. Wow. Sounds like such a complicated position.
It sounds like it, but I feel like if you are paying attention to how everything is working and you have a general understanding of the flow, then after that you just have to adjust to what kind of situation it is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
And as for flight attendant, I would love to try it if I do get the opportunity, just that without I'm on work permit as well. So without that, it's a bit difficult to fly. But so far, I'm loving the operations control.
Mm-hmm. I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I started as a flight attendant with a whole bunch of Seneca students, worked for a small airline, and a lot of the in-flight positions, the flight attendant positions, are temporary. So the airline I worked for, after 4 months, we all got laid off. So it went by season. So when I was looking for a job, I tried a lot of different flight attendant jobs, and no one was hiring, and I got rejected a couple times. And then I ended up going to work on the ground. And like you guys, I also fell in love with it. I enjoyed it. Every day was so different. The people I worked with, being home every night was nice. Like there's, of course, pros and cons, but I did eventually, after a number of years, go back to the flight attendant position, which it sounds like a lot of you guys might have in your future plans. And you will all make fantastic flight attendants because you have a good idea of the operation. Not a good idea, an amazing idea. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a sec. Do you guys, students, are FSO 125 students, does anyone have any questions you would like to know more about from our guest speakers? Is there a topic we can explore right now? Denny? Hi,
Yes,
how are you?
very good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. For all of you, I believe your journey as a flight attendant is truly amazing. It's very nice to listen in from the students. Well, the people that was a student too. What was the most meaningful moment in your career that made you feel that you had chosen the right path? That's the question maybe anyone can answer if they feel like. And
Yeah.
I have a question just for Dorina. Since I'm interested in staying in a ground position, which ground job do you find the most dynamic and full of learning opportunities? Thank you.
Okay, so, oh,
Hello.
okay, I'm gonna mute you. So yeah, anyone can answer this. Kirthi, Chloe, Dorina, or Roshni. Was there like a moment, like, wow, I'm a meaningful moment, a time where you were like, wow, this is exactly what I do, and you want to talk about that? We'll start there.
I guess I'll start it since you also had a question for me. Thank you for the nice words. I think in the moment that I saw my own growth, that was when I realized that I've been doing the right thing. When I was laid off in Malaysia, I totally lost my hope. But then one day I got up and I was like, I'm the only person who can help me. I came back, I started from the beginning, I started studying, and then I started as a check-in agent. And then when I saw that I'm growing in the industry, that's when I realized that I chose the right path. And this is the only thing I like in this world. Like, I could not imagine doing anything else but aviation. And when you love what you do, I think that's where you earn your success, regardless of how much you're earning or what you're doing. I think if you love what you're doing, if you really love it, um, it's just for your own happiness. And I think you control your own happiness, and I think I did the right thing for mine. Speaking of the right position to start with for ground operations, I believe it's always the check-in agent, because you have to start from the beginning. You have to learn everything about it. So as a check-in agent, you learn about the check-in process, the boarding process, and in the background you hear about baggage handling, you hear about mishandled baggage, you hear about other departments as well. And once you start as a check-in agent, you will always grow. You will become a lead. You will become a supervisor, and eventually you can work directly with the airlines. You will become a manager, and you can just keep growing. That's why I think there's a lot of more opportunity when you work on the ground. But the first position that you have to start with, I would say, is ground agent at the ground check-in agent at the airport. So you can choose either GTA Denata or Swissport or Menzies. These are the third-party companies. Or you can start with Air Canada or WestJet, who directly hires their agents with the airline. So they work directly with the airline. But I think it's a good start. However, you can also apply for the office positions like what Roshni is doing, or she was doing before. There's a lot, it's not just about the airport. Airlines have head offices outside of the airport, it's around the airport, and they have office positions. Like what she was saying, it's a lot of different departments that you can work with. So I would say, but if you like the airport operation, you want to be around the airport, I would say start from the check-in agent position, which I always see that a lot of companies are hiring for it.
Yeah, amazing advice. And that way you know baggage, you know the whole process. So starting there, I have friends that got hired right away into like admin positions and management, and some of them lack those skills, so they don't really know how to check in a passenger. So that was really good advice, Darina. Anyone else have a time where they knew exactly they were where they were supposed to be? Before we go on to the next question.
For me, it was just, I think everyone, I was lucky enough that things for me kind of just fell in place when they needed to. Even when I was working as a crew travel coordinator and I was interested in flight dispatch, I was asking my colleagues, to help me with like, to attain the knowledge, where can I study from, etc., etc. And at that time, I remember I had spoken to the chief flight dispatch, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not really currently hiring at the moment, but I'll keep you in mind." And it all went on, and I had sat for my exams, and I had to wait like about 8 to 10 months till an opportunity was available. So in that time, I was a little bit doubtful that when will a position be open? When will it be open? And sometimes when you're not getting what you really want, you're just like, when will this happen? But when it was finally open, I just knew that it was the right time. And every time something happens and you really like something doesn't happen, but you really want it to happen, always remember that it's probably for the best. It's just to make sure that your timing is right. Like it will all fall in place and you might not see it at that time. So even if you're applying for a job and you're not getting it, you're being rejected, everyone is saying no, like don't give up. Like it's always for a reason. And whenever your time will come, you will feel it, and you will know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
I love it. Such good advice. But I do want to just recap what Roshni said about when she was interested in a job, she went to the chief pilot dispatcher. She went and showed initiative and, showed interest. So that is a really important part of the airlines, and I'm sure all our panelists can agree. If you're interested in a certain position within an airline, if you ask questions about it, find the leader, find the manager, shadow, whatever, eventually that position could be yours. You'll be the first one that's chosen because you showed initiative. You learned about the position, that stuff. Okay. Any other comments from our panelists about moments that you may have had that you knew where you were supposed to be, where you are? We can move on to, we have three questions
I was
waiting.
gonna say, so when I left Flair, I came back to Toronto, and I obviously wanted to go back into flying again. So I was applying, and I think I applied to Air Transat because they had like a event where they were doing hiring on the spot, I guess. And I think I saw one of the profs, Charsley. She was there, and so when I finished the whole interview process, I was rejected, which actually brought me down. But then once I saw the posting for Porter Airlines, applied, got hired, and then I found out that I was pregnant. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to be on the ground for now. Flying is not my thing right now. And so I guess that was my moment that made me realize maybe ground working is for me.
Oh my
And yeah, that was my moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. Yeah, because sometimes flying in pregnancy, people do it all the time, but sometimes, doctors might say you shouldn't be flying that type thing. So you were exactly where you should have been.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. May, do you want to ask your question? Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong.
That's okay. Okay, I'll go ahead. I just wanted to thank everybody for sharing their stories with us. I really appreciate it. It was really insightful. My question to all of you is, I guess, what would be some of your tips and advice towards like safety when first starting out? Because I know that sometimes some of us maybe haven't traveled by ourselves before. So what are kind of some safety tips that you've learned along the way within like layovers or even just with hotels that you found were like useful?
Oh my gosh, I love that question so much because I think about this all the time with my students. Because you're out there, you're doing training in Calgary, you're doing, a hotel in Ottawa for dispatch. I'm always thinking about how are my students staying safe because I know what I did when I was 19, 20, and I'm hoping no one else is doing those things. No, just kidding. But do you have any safety tips that you want to share with us?
So I would say when I was a flight attendant, my experience was a little different because I was not always having a layover. I was actually always coming back home. So I only did turnarounds. However, even for now, sometimes I'll have to go in another city and stay in a hotel and for my work. Even in Toronto, when there's delays, cancellations happening, we'll have to stay at the hotels. I would say first thing is that you're in a hotel room, you have the option to go out, have fun if you're not in Toronto, if you're in other cities as well. But I would always say that put your safety first. I've even seen tips from like the videos online that they have their own locks that they usually flight attendants take with them. They even lock their hotel rooms just to be safe. They double check everything. And I would just say that don't just trust everyone so easily. I would say be careful with your relationships, with your friendships. this person might be your colleague, but you never know people, like you're not that close, you haven't, and you're always working with different people every day. Don't trust all the passengers, don't trust everyone that you see. So just always stay safe. If you want to hang out, make sure you're hanging out with the people that you know and you can trust, and always put your safety first. This is my tip. I would just not easily trust everyone. And I would follow those tips from the videos that I saw online. But everyone else, if you have more experience in this, I would love to hear more from you too.
Love that. Yeah. And make sure you are not so easily trusting someone. Any other safety tips the panel would like to share? I think, oh, Roshni, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say, like just to add on to Dorina and make sure, I know that it can get a little bit exciting when you're making new friends in the workplace and, but just be careful about the details about yourself that you're sharing. Um, kind of don't, make it look like you're alone. That just invites like kind of the wrong attention. Yeah, just make sure even when if it's late at night, maybe if you have to, you can share your location with your close family members and just let someone know where you're going so that they kind of have an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Buddy system, let someone know you're going. Even when I used to have layovers, I would tell a front desk, like, hey, I'm just running out the grocery store, be right back. And they're like, okay, sure. But yeah, you just let someone know. You want to make sure you let someone know. And buddy system is great too to be with someone else. So some great safety tips. Let's talk more about this in classes for FSO 125. I'd love to continue this conversation about being safe on the road. There's also something that I used to do. Sarah's going to laugh at this, but I used to not do much. And we would call this type of flight attendant a slam clicker. So we'd slam the door and click it closed, and you wouldn't see me until the next day because I have a child, so I would like to sleep and order takeout. So we call those people slam clickers, which is not a bad thing.
I'm also a clicker, like maybe 85 to 90% of the time. That's me, 100%. I feel I get a little socially tapped out sometimes by the end of the flight, and I like to use my layovers as my time. I order whatever food I want, I bring it back to the room, I catch up on my TV shows, and do a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah,
It's really safe that way.
Yeah, and we're not trying to say, it's not safe. Like, I've done plenty of socializing on layovers in my lifetime, and as a PSA when we used to do training in different bases. But yeah, just do it safe if you're going to do it, or slam click. Gary, do you have a question? Gary? Okay, yeah. I saw there was another placement question. So the first question came up, and then we'll continue the conversation. But the first question that came up in the chat was, did you have a hard time finding placement? Does anyone want to talk about that process with our students?
I didn't really have a hard time because I remember Cathay Pacific and WestJet, I think they teamed up with Seneca. So they had come to Seneca and we all applied for it. And whoever was shortlisted, they just had to go and get their interview. So I didn't have that much of an issue when it came to finding placement. And for my friends who did have, some of them took a while, but at the end of the day, they ended up getting a placement and they really enjoyed it. So again,
Mhm.
it really worked out for them for the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, the placements, and I'll just share with this with you now, since you should start thinking about it. There's a couple of things that are looked at when it comes to placements, and all our 4 panelists were actually top of the list. Your past experience, so what if you have customer service experience, so what's on your resume? So the employers will look at your resumes, your cover letters, then look at your academic performance. Did you come to class? Did you participate? Do you have any Fs in your transcripts? So your transcripts are looked at. So keep that in mind. This is a big one because you don't want that, an F in FSO 115 to set you back. So academic performance is looked at, and then the interview itself. So as Roshni mentioned, you'd be shortlisted and brought in for an interview. So you guys don't have your uniform yet, but they're on their way. They're on a plane right now coming. We'll update you soon about that. But yeah, like, did you wear your uniform to class every day? Did you participate in on the move? Did you ask questions? No, and that stuff's not looked at. But yeah, it's your participation in class too. So we want to make sure we're sending our best students to the airlines to represent Seneca. And then so the placement is 150 hours that students have to do. We do have a dedicated placement website if you guys want to check it out. Maybe Camille can link it in the chat. Lots of information there. Kayla, you have a question?
Hi, yes, I do. I just wanted to ask, since you guys are on the ground, is there any experience that you have with passengers? Any difficult experience? How did you handle it? Is there any tips that you can give us? Just really want to know a little bit more about that.
Kayla, we only have half an hour left. We could talk about this for like 24 hours straight.
I was just gonna say.
I'm just kidding. No, yeah. Do you want to maybe just talk about some experiences that stuck out? But yeah, lots of stories are going to come out here. Dorina, you should probably start because so it sounds like something came up in your mind right away.
Because it's very recent. I think a lot of people have seen my video. It's a lot of cancellations that we had at the airport. Sunwing Airlines, like a lot of delays and cancellations because of 2 big snowstorms happening and a crash in the middle. So not for Sunwing, but the Delta crash I'm talking about. So I think not just that this is like one of the worst situations, but you will always have unruly passengers. You will have angry passengers. There will always be someone who's not happy about their service that they're getting. And they all express their feelings in a different way. So you have to know, not just in aviation industry, but I believe in every customer service position, you have to be prepared to face this kind of people. You're seeing different people every day. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone is as nice as you think. And not everyone is as bad as you think. So I would always say be prepared, be professional, no matter how bad the situation gets. Especially at the airport, you have the beauty of controlling the crowd and the situation because you actually have people helping you, like the police officers who work at the airport. They're always around to ensure the safety and security of the passengers and the staff. And you can always give them a heads up and they'll be there to assist you. But I would always suggest as an airline staff, we call it that you're the image of the airline. You're the first person who's representing the airline. You're representing your brand. So make sure no matter how bad the situation gets, control your emotions and your actions and be professional. At some point you can even leave and ask the manager to handle the situation, but always be professional. And you don't want to ruin your day because of these situations. But the stories could be going on forever. It's in aviation, I think we all have a lot of stories, but I would just say it's not really what would stop me from working in this industry. Because even if I work in a restaurant or a supermarket, it's still a customer service and I still face the same issue. So it's nothing bad as long as you stay professional, stay calm, and you will actually learn the skills along the way on how to handle these situations. You will actually even learn it in Seneca. I remember we did have courses about it if you haven't had it yet. But yeah, it's not a big deal, and it's always there's always more beautiful things in this industry than to think about the negative ones, which I think this is only one of the only negative points about it, but it's in every customer service.
Yeah, thank you for that great response. And you're absolutely right. I especially really like how you say the passenger's usually mad at like the company, not you. It's not like your face they're mad at. They're just mad at the situation. You're wearing the uniform, you're the brand ambassador, you're the first person they see because you're
You're
working.
just there, period.
Yeah, you
We actually have a really great saying that they teach us at Transact for these exact moments. And it really kind of stuck with me because I'd never worked customer service before getting into this industry, and it was really eye-opening. But we have a saying, we say Q-tip it, which stands for quit taking it personal. Just like a little daily reminder that they're not mad at you, they're mad at the general bigger picture. And once you kind of get a hold of that, it kind of becomes a heck of a lot easier. Yes, quit taking it personal.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Thank you
Good
so
thing to
much
keep
for
in
sharing.
your mind.
Absolutely. Great. Any of our other panelists would like to talk about how to handle, not so great situations or one come in mind?
So yeah, just like Jorina said, like keep it professional, and like if you feel like it's too much for you, there's always a lead or a supervisor there that can always jump in, and like if you are not able to deal with the situation, they could always, step in and do that for you. I didn't have very bad bad situations that I had to deal with, but just like, occasional, we'd have like a passenger who isn't who doesn't speak English. I had to deal with someone last week. He was at the wrong airport. So we order still flies from Billy Bishop, right? And he was flying to New York, but we don't fly to New York from Pearson yet. So I had to like explain to him in the best possible way to tell him to go to the next airport, but he wasn't speaking English. So he had this translate app on his phone. I had to like speak into the phone to tell him we have to go to the next airport. And then what I ended up doing was just writing down the address for him on a little piece of paper, taking him down to the taxi pickup spot, and telling them like to take him to that airport so he can go for his flight.
Love that solution. Oh, that's great. Okay, good. And a great story to and a great resolution to that story too. Okay. Roshni, do you have a do
I
you have
haven't dealt with such bad situation, but I have been in customer service, and even with crew travel, even though it wasn't customers, like we had a lot of the times, because we're the ones arranging the hotels and the flights and the transportation for the crew. So if those guys are late, they always call us first, and then we're like, what's happening? Like, why isn't my hotel room booked? You know. Um, so at this point, I just learned to kind of like put myself into the person who's complaining the shoes. Like, it just helps to understand from their point of view better, because it's late at night, they're tired, they've dealt with God knows how many people, right? And just understanding that they're frustrated and they just want to rest. It really helped me communicate better. It automatically changed my tone towards them, made it more empathetic. So when they find that you're trying to understand the situation, and they're saying that you're trying your best to solve this for them, they also kind of mirror back the reaction. So you just have to kind of like just say that, yeah, I hear you, and I'm really trying my best to make sure that this is solved for you as soon as possible. And when, for example, I'll just give a rough example. If, let's say, um the hotel, we are in contact with the hotel, and the hotel says, okay, yeah, acknowledged. So after that, I would not just leave the situation there. I go back, I call the crew, and I'll check, have you guys been checked in? Is everything okay? Can I do anything else for you guys? So that follow-up also really helps to kind of mend and maintain the whole situation, so it doesn't go haywire. So that would be my tips for dealing. They're just crew, but I mean, it could help with customers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it translates in both aspects. And I love that follow-up, especially being a crew member that has dealt with that many times where you get to the hotel, there's no hotel room for you. Things happen, we move on. Okay, Paola, sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. Do you
That's that's no problem. I just had a question, basically on any of the panels that attended Seneca College. Did anyone do the certificate course over the diploma?
I think we're all diplomas.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just wondering, seeing what the difference is, if there was a difference with the hiring process from someone that had a certificate or versus a diploma. But if everyone's got a diploma, that's great.
No, still a very relevant question. Thank you for asking that. The big difference, and I put in the FAQ link on the chat, I put some more thorough answer, but the big difference is the placement. So you'll be doing a placement in the fourth semester. So that is the big thing is, getting that work experience, getting the experience on your resume, and hopefully getting hired after, just like all our panelists were hired. So yeah, but I'm welcome. Like if you ever want to have a chat about the differences, I'll definitely talk about it in my class next week. But yeah, the big difference is the career placement. You do more emergency and theory. You also have to take general education courses in the diploma program, professional options, so you can do your first aid, your crew resource management. So there's quite a few differences. And being the program coordinator, I do see a lot of students switch over to the diploma at about this time. Students will first register in the 1 year, and then they'll switch over to the 2 year. For a hiring standpoint, the big difference is having a little, that work experience. And also a diploma is better to have than a certificate, of course. And as alumni and as alumni, there are pathways to do like bachelor's degree with the diploma as well. So that's another big one. If you want to keep studying, you can pursue your bachelor's degree with Seneca. Yeah, welcome. So I think it'd be a good time to talk about travel benefits, because a lot of us get into this career to travel. I know Roshni, I sent her a message because my sister was 13 hours late on her Sunwing flight. And I texted Roshni and Darina, sorry to bother you on a Saturday. But anyways, Roshni was like, oh, I'm in Kenya. I'm like, oh, awesome. I'm in Toronto. But anyways, do you guys want to talk about just give us like a brief overview on your airline's travel benefits? So what are they like? And maybe the last place you traveled or somewhere you want to travel. You want to talk about that? Maybe we can start with, we'll go Kirthi, Chloe, Darina, Roshni.
So when I started working with Porter, travel benefits usually kick in 6 months after. 3 months for the destinations that Porter flies to, and then 6 months with our partners. So then what I did was, and what Porter also did was, for starting operations in Toronto at Pearson, they gave each employee 4 free one-way confirmed tickets to fly anywhere Porter goes to. So I took advantage of that and I went to Vancouver just because I haven't been with my husband before we had our baby. And
Nice.
then after coming back, we're planning to go Vancouver again, and then just somewhere, probably Orlando, just to take the kids to Disney.
Oh,
That's
just to take the kids to Disney. I love it.
but yeah, so we do have discounted confirmed tickets with Porter, and then we can also fly standby with our partners.
Okay, amazing. Good, good. Chloe, you want to talk about yours and any upcoming trips or somewhere you just went?
So since I'm still in probation, I haven't used my flight benefit yet. I can use it now, but I don't wanna like show that I got hired, like I came to this company to use my flight benefit, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for my probation to be done. And for the Swissport job I have is it's a third company, so I don't have my flight benefits. I believe Sunwing have a flight benefit for Swissport, but I don't do with Sunwing, so for Korean Air, for example, they don't give a flight benefit for a third company. And to be honest, that's the biggest reason I wanted to go Cathay for the flight benefit. And I believe there's a standby ticket. There's like a different priority for every ticket. And you can just stand by, and depends on the flight load, you can either go or you might not make it. And there's like another airline ticket too. And for Cathay, our own company ticket, we can use it right away as soon as we got hired. But then for other company, I believe it's 6 months.
Yeah, they all vary. Every airline has a different rule. Some are 6 months. I remember when I was in CSR training, PSA training, within 1 week, my travel benefits activated, and my sister flew to Calgary to come hang out with me. And the flight was cheaper than her taxi cab from the airport to my hotel. So every airline has a different rule, but it's nice to be able to take advantage of those.
And for Cathay also, sorry, I forgot to mention, we can travel with the, because I remember for Korean Air, for their own staff, like under Korean Air, they can use a business class ticket after they get hired 10 years. 10
Oh,
years.
nice. Yeah.
But then for Cathay Pacific, we can pay more and get business ticket. And I believe from YYZ to Hong Kong Airport, it's a business standby ticket. Price is 430, 430 Canadian.
Wow, that's incredible. Yes, I see Ji-sun always going to Hong Kong. Ji-sun
Mhm.
is a former student. And I see on Instagram he's always on the flat pod seats flying to Hong Kong.
Right now too.
Pardon?
He's in Hong Kong right now
Oh,
too.
yes. Yeah, take advantage. Once your probation is over, I can understand that. Darina.
As we mentioned, every airline is different. Believe it or not, I've never used my travel benefits with any of the airlines I worked with because I always had a destination in mind that my airline doesn't fly with. They don't fly to. So
Right.
with Sunwing, different departments have different benefits. For us at the airport, well, we have standby tickets like every other airline, which is as cheap as $75. And to the destinations that we fly to, but unlike other airlines, Sunwing doesn't have partnerships with other airlines, so we cannot fly with other airlines with our travel benefits. It's only with Sunwing. But we also do have something called Epic Points that we can get our cheaper hotel or yeah, these are like the travel package. We can get it a lot cheaper, which is like probably cheaper than a hotel room in Toronto. So those are the benefits for Sunwing. With Denata that I worked with, their travel benefit was, I think, only like 20%, 30% with Air Transat only.
Okay, yeah, so varies. And for students, just to remember, when you work directly with an airline, usually you have better perks than when you work for the third party contractor. Roshni, let's hear about your maybe latest journey or your upcoming journey and travel benefits.
Uh, the last place I went to with Sunwing's travel benefits was Vancouver. They actually do have a partnership with Porter. I'm not sure if this is for all staff, but you can get a standby ticket with Porter. So I went with Porter to Vancouver, and before that, had gone to Quebec. I wish they had a lot more like flights towards, the east, but yeah, like Dorina mentioned, we can use our active points to go wherever Sunwing flies to and book our package with them for a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. I see a theme with Vancouver in our panel today. So if you want to choose Vancouver as your first destination when you're traveling, when you have those benefits, that's a good choice.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was nice. I only went because it was warmer at that time compared
Yeah,
to.
it's warmer and cherry blossom season is starting, so you can go watch the cherry blossom this time of year. Okay, good. Any more questions we can put forward to our panel? Maybe Sarah or Camille have a question? Students in the chat? All right. Okay. I think that was a lot of information.
I had a question. Sorry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good,
It was
thanks.
for I can't remember her name, but she works for Porter and she got pregnant.
Kirthi, yep.
Yeah. Did you did you transfer when you transfer to like ground? Did you have to retake a test or like apply, or how was the process for that?
So I was actually flying with Flair, and then I left Flair and then came to Porter. But after going on mat leave and coming back, I did have to do some training just to catch up with whatever was new. Because when I left for mat leave, we weren't flying transborder, like we weren't flying to the States. But now we do. So I just had to do some training to get caught up with the procedures for checking passengers who are traveling to the States. And then also flights that are leaving to the States, we have to do like the sweep to make sure there's nothing on the aircraft that isn't supposed to be there. So stuff like that. Just to get caught up, I had to do some system training and also training on how to deal with the US flights.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So when you work for an airline, whether you're a flight attendant or any position, you can get a doctor's note. Like I had a doctor's note, so I wasn't flying at all. So I worked in like an office job while I was pregnant. And I didn't do any flights. So you can do like a modified duty. So airlines will offer that, which is a great option if you like can't stand on your feet or um, whatever the case may be. Every person will have a different way. Then there's my sister who works at WestJet as a flight attendant, and she flew up until like 32 weeks, which is pretty far. So it just depends on what your needs are. Could go either way.
At Transat, we actually have something that we all pay into. That's called the Preventative Leave Fund for people. This is for if you're flying. I'm not sure what they have available to them on the ground, but if you're a flight attendant, we pay into this program. So if you wanted to take time off before maternity leave, you're able to, especially those first 3 months are quite not that they're risky business, but they're a little bit more high risk than the rest of the time. I don't know how your sister survived. I've seen flight attendants as well fly all the way through until they
Yeah,
can't anymore. And I don't know how you'll do it.
I know.
Superstar. But I have a question for our panelists, because for myself as a flight attendant, I know I have my favorite flights because I feel every flight brings a different passenger demographic. Do you guys have favorite flights? I'm sure even the check-in process and all that kind of stuff brings a different demographic every time you do a different flight. Do you guys have a favorite? It's not for anyone in particular. Sorry, my voice.
I think my favorite flight would be the ones that are going to Montreal. Because in the evenings we have a lot of passengers who are traveling to Montreal first and then off to either like, Sri Lanka, wherever. So they have a connecting flight to catch with like Qatar or whatever. And I feel like they have a lot of questions regarding their bags. If they have to pick up their bags in Montreal and like, drop it off with the next airline or whatnot. And like I like to be there to let them know, like, no, you don't have to. Your bags will be meeting you at your final destination. So I like to be there to give them that assurance to, fly comfortably. You don't have to worry about anything other than just making it onto your next flight. So I guess some Montreal flights are my favorite flights.
Just funny because as a flight attendant, Montreal flights are my least favorite. They're pretty up there on flights that I actually really, really don't want to do. So this is why I asked. I'm like, it's different for everyone. That's why I'm curious if anybody else has any favorite flights to check in people for.
Some flights are not really different from one another. The passenger profile is exactly the same for all the
Oh,
flights.
really?
When I was a flight attendant, I did have my favorite flights too, but something is really different. Like we don't really have a different profile, passenger profile for a different flight. So I would say they are all pretty much the same though.
I find that very interesting because for us, we do a lot of similar flights at Transat, and myself looking at the passenger crowd that we kind of get on like our Cuba flights is very different than what I would get on my Montego Bay flights and things like that. So that's very interesting for me to hear. The different lives, I guess.
We have a question again. Sorry, I can't see who this.
Teresa.
Teresa.
Yeah, I'm using my phone. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Is like the training for the computer or online? I don't know. I think there's a website or something that you have to train for ground.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you missed the beginning, but we talked about like what software the panelists learned in their training. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so every airline had a different, every panelist had a different kind of answer to that and what they learned and the software they had to learn. But yes, definitely have.
Yeah. My question to that is like, is it difficult? Like, did you have it like find it a hard time like doing that, the training for that, or is it? Would you say it's easy for a lot of like students to like achieve that part of the training? Because I'm not very good at computers so much, but like I would do ground just due to the flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what do you think? Did you have a hard time learning the system? Was it okay?
I think it honestly depends on the program you use, but for Porter, it was pretty straightforward. Like the training that you do at home, the courses prepares you for what you're gonna see like on hand. And then when you do like on the job training, that's when you get used to what you learned. So you use the information that you learn and just apply it when I guess the passengers are there. And when you do the training, you have your leads or soups. Um, just you're like basically shadowing them first, and then they will ask you to do it yourself. And then if you have any questions, you have them there as a backup. But the computer stuff, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Thank you. I'm considering ground operation, like all the first,
Oh,
just so I can have a better understanding of the airport. Wait, can you hear me?
yeah, I think we got the gist. Like you're considering working on the ground, learn
Yeah,
the
then just like you, Miss Professor, like I want to start on the ground first before rushing into flying, but I'm just thinking about like the computer, like software training.
Yeah, the training is very thorough when you go to the airlines and you get the resources to like study and practice. So, yeah, it's definitely doable. And then you have the course at Seneca you will learn too. So that will help you just get an overview of airline software and you'll learn that and be tested on that. So that gives you kind of like an advantage.
We do that software even for just the certificate program?
Yeah, all students will learn that in the second semester. It's FSO 215, Amadeus.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome. All right. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, the students, for your amazing questions and, sticking around for this long. Thank you to our panelists, Kirthi, Chloe, Darina, and Roshni for joining us today, taking time out of your vacations, out of your kids' time, all that stuff, to share your experience with our students. And thank you, Sarah and Camille, for being here as well. Yeah, so don't forget there is a reflection due in a week before your next class. And I think for the most part, like my class won't have class on Thursday. We'll send you the recording if you were to miss this, and we'll see you next week. If you want to stay around and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, that's everything for today, guys. Thank you for joining us on the move ground operations. And take care, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you.